What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel and welcome back to our video. Today I'll be talking about Kyle Busch and whether he'll return to Rich Racing in 2026 or he'll test free agency at the end of 2025 and join a new organization in 2026. So anyways, let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. 2024 for Kyle Busch was a massive struggle. For the first time in his NASCAR Cup Series career, he failed to pick up a victory. His streak had gone from 2005 up until 2023, which of course was a 19-year streak. He unfortunately ended that win-year streak where he won at least one race every single year. And unfortunately, for the first time since 2012, he also failed to make the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. And it was a massive struggle for Rich Racing across the board. Kyle Busch led a lot less laps than he led in 2023. And in 2023, remember, he picked up 3 victories of Richard Childress Racing. You compared that to 2024, where he did not pick up a win and a victory. And there was a lot of talk and conversations in the middle of 2024 about Kyle Busch potentially leaving the organization at the end of 2024 and maybe finding a way back over Joe Gibbs Racing or maybe going back to Hendrick Motorsports. Now, Rich Racing did exercise their option for 2025. But the big thing right now is that going into 2025, Kyle Busch is going to be one of the biggest name free agents that's on the market currently at the moment. And I don't think Kyle Busch is the problem over at Rich Racing. Now, granted, they've made a lot of major changes over at Rich Racing over the offseason. They brought in multiple people from Super Haas Racing. They brought Johnny Klossenmeyer to be the director of vehicle performance, and Richard Boswell is going to be the crew chief for Austin Dillon. There's also going to be a third car in 2025 for RCR, probably for guys like Austin Hill, Jesse Love, Chandler Smith, and Will Brown. But like I mentioned with Kyle Busch is going to be a free agent going into the 2025 season and is probably going to be the number one free agent going into the 2025 year. Because Kyle Busch, even though he's had struggles at times, I still believe that he has got it. And I think if you put him behind a wheel of any organization and any team he would go to, I think he'd be very solid and really successful to this day. Now, at this point, Kyle Busch, who will be 40 years old at the end of 2025, is probably going to start declining. But I think there's a chance and possibility he can go to a team and still be very successful. So let's say Kyle Busch decides to stay with RCR, because I think there is a chance he could potentially stay with RCR. If the team performs a lot better and improves as an organization, I could definitely see him sticking around with RCR. I think the big thing for Kyle is he does need to win races with RCR this upcoming year, a race or two, and he needs to make the playoffs. But let's also say Kyle Busch decides to not return to Rich Racing in 2026. What team could he go to in 2026? Let's now talk about his organizations that I could see being potential possibilities. Let's go ahead and jump into it. The first team that I could see Kyle Busch joining in 2026, if he doesn't return to Rich Racing, is Spire Motorsports. Now, going into the 2026 year, I believe there could be 2 drivers that could be free agents with that organization at the end of 2025, and that is Carson Hocevar and Justin Haley. Now, why did I mention those 2 drivers? Well, Justin Haley and Carson Hocevar, I would not be shocked and surprised if they're in the running for the 48 car for Hendrick Motorsports, if somehow Kyle Busch does not end up back at the 48 car. Is that we always know, and we hear these conversations about whether or not we're going to see Alex Bowman get replaced at Hendrick Motorsports. And that could lead to both Justin Haley and Carson Hocevar getting promotion over there. Now, realistically, I think Carson Hocevar is going to stay at Spire for the long-term future, considering the fact, of course, that they are going to be getting a massive Tier 1 support from Hendrick Motorsports going down the road, and this team is making major moves and bringing a lot of people like Rodney Chillers and Matt McCall and Michael McDowell and other people. I don't see Carson Hocevar leaving the team. Now, obviously, Brad Gzowski kind of hinted this when the announcement happened of Justin Haley going to Spire for 2025. It was hinted that Justin Haley could be, of course, headed to Hendrick in some sort of capacity, because apparently Hendrick Motorsports is really high on Justin Haley. But let's say those 2 don't get replaced. There could be a 4th car that could also be available for Kyle Busch in 2026 as well. Now, obviously, they can't run a 4th full-time charter organization, but the teams are allowed to run a 4th full-time car. What if in a wild way and possibility we see Kyle Busch go to that organization and be in a 4th open entry? Maybe sponsors won't come as much, but obviously Gamebridge and the people that work at Spire, the Andretti group over there, they're spending a lot of money at the moment right now. And I think if they wanted to find a way to recruit Kyle Busch, considering the fact he does have affiliation with their Truck Series program, why not bring Kyle Busch into the program? I could see this being a really big possibility, plus Spire Motorsports on the up and up right now. I think there is a chance you could see Kyle Busch in a Spire Motorsports car for sure. And I think this is one of the favorite organizations to watch out for as being a possibility for Kyle Busch if he doesn't return to RCR. The second team that Kyle Busch could end up going to if he doesn't return to RCR in 2026 is Joe Gibbs Racing. Now, Joe Gibbs Racing is a team that Kyle Busch had most of his success in NASCAR Cup competition. He drove for them from 2018 up until the end of 2022 when he lost the M&M sponsorship. When M&M's left at the end of 2022, Kyle Busch, of course, went over to Richard Childress Racing. Now, apparently, Joe Gibbs had offered Kyle Busch an opportunity to return to the team and organization, but obviously, of course, did not end up really working out over there. But Kyle Busch did state during the summer that there is a chance that he could look at going back to the team in the future. Now, obviously, I don't see Christopher Bell or Chase Briscoe or Ty Gibbs getting replaced. So you have to look at the current driver of the number 11 car, and that is Denny Hamlin. There is a really good chance and possibility that Denny Hamlin could retire from the NASCAR Cup Series at the end of 2025. Denny Hamlin is going to be in a contract year, and there's been rumors and speculation about the potential possibility of Denny Hamlin retiring. And obviously, they are looking for sponsorship as well, and that's one thing that could hurt this possibly for Kyle Busch going over there. But why not bring someone into the team? We're not going to see Chandler Smith with Joe Gibbs Racing down the road. I don't see Eric Jones ever going to Joe Gibbs Racing. So if Denny Hamlin does retire, I think Kyle Busch should be the favorite driver they should go after. He'd probably be a bridge guy for one of the young guys like William Swatch or Taylor Gray. And I think it would make a lot of sense to do that. So we'll see down the road what happens. But I think Joe Gibbs Racing is certainly an interesting possibility for Kyle Busch to go to in the not-so-distant future. The next team that I could see Kyle Busch going to in the future, if he does return to RCR, is Hendrick Motorsports. There's only one obvious option, the 48 car. The 48 car could technically be a free agent car at the end of 2025. Yes, Alex Bowman does have a contract through 2026 to my understanding with Hendrick Motorsports, but contracts can easily be broken. Corey LaJoie learned that early in the year. And if Hendrick really wanted to bring Kyle Busch back in the stable, they absolutely could. That being said, I think Alex Bowman is probably a better driver at the moment than Kyle Busch. And Ally is a massive fan of Alex Bowman as well. But let's say all of a sudden Kyle Larson decides to retire and just move to another team. That could certainly be a possibility too, but I don't see that being an option because Larson has a contract through 2026, William Byron set through 2025, and Chase Elliott has a contract through 2027. Again, like I said, contracts can easily be broken and drivers can make whatever move they want to. I think there is a chance that the 48 car could definitely be an option for Kyle Busch in 2026, but I also think there's a really strong possibility that nothing's going to change in regards to Kyle Busch being going there. I would think that there's probably like a 20 to 30% chance of this being realistic, but at the end of the day, I would watch for Hendrick being one to be a team that could be looking at Kyle Busch down the road of bringing him back. It has been almost 20 years since Kyle Busch was at Hendrick. I think it'd be interesting to see him in a Hendrick car in the near future if they wanted to bring him back. The next team that Kyle Busch could go to if he doesn't return to RCR is 2311 Racing. Now, 2311 Racing will have 3 cars for the 2025 season. Tyler Reddick will be behind the wheel of the 45. Bubba Wallace will be behind the wheel of the 23. And Riley Herbst will drive the new number 35 car for the team in 2025. Now, obviously, Tyler Reddick is not going anywhere. Tyler Reddick is one of the best drivers in Cup, won the regular season championship, performed extremely well throughout the season. I don't see him leaving the team anytime soon. Bubba Wallace just signed a multi-year contract extension with 2311 through 2026. He's not going to be a free agent until the 2026 season, and Bubba brings a lot of sponsorship and funding to the table, and sponsors really like Bubba, so they're not going to be leaving the team. You then have to look at the number 35, and that being Riley Herbst. Now, I don't fully know the contract for Riley Herbst. It could be a multi-year deal with the team, but it also could be a one-year deal with an option year. Now, of course, for Riley Herbst, he does bring sponsorship and funding to the team. And then you're going to run into this issue potentially where Corey Heim comes into play. And I feel like that Corey Heim deserves to be in a full-time NASCAR Cup Series ride right now. And I think he probably should have gotten a seat over Riley Herbst with how much talent he brings. the one way that Kyle Busch could end up at 20 through 11 is his brother Kurt. I could see Kurt Busch convincing 20 through 11 to find a way to bring Kyle in. This is one of the teams that apparently Kyle Busch was looking at when Kyle Busch was trying to figure out what he was going to be doing after 2022. And with Kurt being over there, it would definitely make a lot of sense. I think this team is probably a 20 to 25% likeliness of happening. I would not count this out. There were rumors about it earlier this year of him going to 23-11, but I don't think Kyle Busch will go to 23-11 most likely, but I still think there is a possibility of 23-11 being an option down the road. The next team that I could see Kyle Busch going to is RFK Racing. Now, I don't know the contract for Chris Buescher and the number 17 car. We do know it's a multi-year deal, but we don't know how long that contract goes through. It could be a contract year for Chris Buescher at RFK Racing at the end of 2025. Brad Keselowski has stated recently that he's not planning to retire anytime soon. He's not going to be retiring for the foreseeable future. So you got to look at the third driver, and that is Ryan Preece as being the only driver that could end up getting replaced. Now, I do think Ryan Preece may have a multi-year deal with RFK Racing, but let's say Kroger doesn't like what he's doing, even though Kroger is, of course, a massive fan of Ryan Preece. Kyle Busch was originally going to be a Roush driver years ago, back in the early 2000s when Kyle Busch was on his way up. This is a team that was really looking at Kyle Busch. Unfortunately, in 2001, Kyle Busch lost his ride because of the tobacco stuff, and I believe a couple other companies in the tobacco brand like Marlboro were sponsoring an IndyCar race that weekend, and Kyle Busch, of course, was 16 years old, racing in a Truck Series event. I think RFK, the only way this would work is if Kroger somehow backs off and Kyle Busch comes in. But with Kroger coming in for a long-term deal, I think there's an outside chance of RFK. But I also think it's going to be harder for this to happen because RFK isn't a team that I think is looking for an older driver at this point for the team and organization. The next team that I could see Kyle Busch going to if he does return to RCR is Trackhouse Racing. Now, Trackhouse Racing is going to be a 3-car team, of course, in 2025. Ross Chastain is going to be in a contract year with Trackhouse at the end of this year, but I expect Ross Chastain sometime early in 2025 like they did in 2023. He is probably going to get a multi-year extension, considering the fact he's bringing sponsorship from Busch Beer and a couple other companies as well. I don't see Ross Chastain leaving. And you're not going to get rid of Shane Van Gisbergen. Shane Van Gisbergen is a guy who's going to be able to provide you the opportunity to go to victory lane and the opportunity to go and win. The only one I've seen being a possibility is the number 99 car. Dale Suarez is got more pressure than any other driver in the NASCAR Cup Series going into this year. He absolutely needs to perform at a very strong level in 2025. Otherwise, I think he is going to get replaced. I could see this being a really strong possibility if Connor Zilch, either one, doesn't go to Cadillac. So there's rumors going around right now he can go to Cadillac in Formula 1. Or number 2, of course, Connor Zilch doesn't get the full-time Cup stint with Trackhouse Racing, which I think very likely if Daniel Suarez does leave the team and lose this seat, I do think that Connor Zilch could get the seat, but why not pick up Kyle Busch at this point, right? I think it would make a lot of sense for me. I think Trackhouse is a better team than RCR currently at the moment, but I still think it's more than likely at this point that RCR is not. I think that Kyle Busch most likely probably won't go to RCR. I'm going to give this 10 to 15% because of Connor Zilch, but if things change, I could see things changing going forward for him potentially going there. The next team we're talking about is Spire Motorsports once again. But instead of talking about the Cup Series, we're talking about the Truck Series. Kyle Busch has affiliation with Spire in the Craftsman Truck Series right now. And there has been some talk and conversation about retirement rumors throughout the last year or so about Kyle Busch maybe even retiring in the not-so-distant future. One thing Kyle Busch has wanted to do before he officially retires from full-time NASCAR racing is win a Truck Series championship, to be the only driver in NASCAR competition to win a championship in all 3 series. He's won 2 NASCAR Cup Series championships, 2015 and 2019, and of course he won an Xfinity title back almost 20 years ago in 2009. It's been nearly 20 years at this point, 15 years to be exact, but I think that he wants to win a truck title. And I think if you put him behind the wheel of a truck right now, I think he'd be really competitive. Now, he has stated he may just go ahead and wait till Brexton gets in, and Brexton will be 10 years old next year, so he's got to wait about 6 years to make his truck debut. But I think a Spire truck could certainly be a big possibility and one to watch out for throughout the upcoming year. If he doesn't want to come back to Cup, maybe I could see him going to a team like Spire for their truck program instead of their Cup program. Maybe he runs part-time with Spire in the Cup Series if that doesn't end up happening. I think this is definitely a possibility for sure. And the last one that I'm going to talk about is Junior Motorsports. Again, there's rumors and rumblings about Junior Motorsports, seems like every single year, about this team making a jump up the Cup. And I think there's a chance this team could jump in with a bunch of investors in 2026. And Kyle Busch, like I said, is going to be a free agent. It would be very interesting to see Kyle Busch and Dale Jr. working together. You go back to 2008, right, when Dale Jr. and Kyle Busch were rivals during that year, and we saw some retaliation from Dale Jr. at Richmond later in the year and later in the season. But I think Kyle Busch would be a perfect driver to start off Junior Motorsports in Cup competition. Kyle Busch can get the best out of equipment. We've seen what he can do with some of the smaller organizations and teams and built them from the ground up. And I think that it would be really cool to see him get the chance and opportunity to really help Junior Motorsports make it up. This would be my dream scenario for Kyle Busch if Junior Motorsports was to make the jump up the Cup in the future. I think that this is probably a 5 to 6% likelihood. The only way I see this really happening is, of course, if Junior Motorsports does decide to finally make that jump up the Cup they've been working on. But I also think there's an outside chance it may not happen going forward down the road in the future. But we'll see if Junior Motorsports decide to maybe jump up, and I could see Kyle Busch going there in the future. So now, here's the verdict of what I think could end up happening for Kyle Busch. I think he's either going to return to RCR in 2026 or he's going to go to Spire Gibbs Racing. I think those are the three most likely options going into 2026. I think he'll either go to a top-tier NASCAR Cup Series team, like go back to Toyota, or he'll stay in the Chevrolet camp and go to Spire. I think it's very unlikely he's going to stay at RCR if they struggle. Now, if RCR really, really improves and the team gets their crap together, I could see Kyle Busch ending up at RCR. So it's going to we're going to have to wait and see what happens, but I think he'll be either back at RCR in 2026, or he'll, of course, go back to Joe Gibbs or go to Spire in 2026. Those are my predictions at this time. So, that is going to be it for the special video on if Kyle Busch will return to Trackhouse Racing in 2026. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so if I win a video, it does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Link description below of that, and comment your thoughts below on today's episode. You think Kyle Busch will return to RCR or leave and go to another organization in the future? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. There probably won't be any more content dropping today on the channel. Tomorrow, we'll probably be doing the Xfinity Series playoff predictions. There may be another video on Project 91 dropping as well. Then on Sunday, we're going to have Xfinity Series winner predictions dropping on the channel. In the next week or so, you will be seeing the rankings of all the NASCAR Cup Series drivers once everything gets officially confirmed on the Cup lineup for 2025. There will be the full Cup lineup video coming out in the next couple weeks as well. You will see an updated Daytona 500 entry list. We'll talk about the lawsuit again with 2011 front row. Talk about people like Haley Deegan, Shane Van Gisbergen, Carl Edwards, Kurt Busch, all that kind of stuff. Talk about Connor Zillis, Junior Motorsports, you name it down the road. We'll talk about all that on the channel in the coming days and weeks. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.